Yes, so obviously a lot of tension and the string. Hey lovelies, and welcome back to Unspoken Words. So today we are going to be talking about, or I am going to be giving you, just kind of going through the things that I did to get my hair to the length that it is right now. And I think what I'll do is I'll insert a video of me kind of stretching my hair. I was doing a twist out recently, and I'll show you that video. I'll just put it here so you guys can see how long my hair is right now. If you guys have seen my my very first video, my very first hair video, where I was kind of talking about something, I can't remember what I was even saying, but in that video I basically said the length I wanted for by the end of this year, and I didn't really explain the things I was going to do because I wasn't quite sure yet, but now that as I'm progressing and we're moving to the end of the year, I kind of know the things that I'm doing in order to see if I can reach the length goal that I would like to get to. So without further ado, let's get straight onto this video. The first thing, and I think a lot of naturals kind of scream this to everybody, and that is basically protective styling. Now we hear twist out, mini twist, well, I seem to hear that a lot. Anyway, so we hear mini twist a lot because obviously it's something I've got it on right now, and it's something that is easy to do, and it's quick. I want to say it's quick because you can quickly do mini twists, but if you have a lot of hair, then obviously it's going to take more time for you to install or do mini twist on your head. But for me, what I used to do and still do is protective styling such as braids and twists, mini twists, like I have right now. So in terms of my braids, I used to do single braids and pick and drop. Pick a drop, single braids, Senegalese twists. I used to do that as well. So I used to do a lot of these styles. I know you hear now, and I've probably said it a couple of times, which is don't do tight braids, don't do tight protective styling, because that can affect your edges, affect you how much hair you shed, how much hair you're losing because of these kind of styles. That's not to say that braids and twists are not good, especially braids in particular, or even when you're doing cornrows. I'm not saying that those aren't good protective styles, because they are, but if it's too tight to the point where you are struggling to sleep, or your head is kind of throbbing because of how tight your hair is being pulled back, then that is kind of considered too tight of a protective style, and you're kind of effectively doing the opposite of what the protective style is meant to do, you know. So yes, I did braids, but I didn't do them so tightly. I did them tight enough to look neat, obviously, because you want your styles to look neat, but I didn't do them to the point where it was, I mean, there were some times, I'm not gonna lie, there were those times when I definitely made them tighter than I should have done, but the majority of the time I made sure that they were tight enough to look nice and presentable, but also not so tight that it was hurting my hair for days. It started raining, guys, but great. Anyways, so yeah, so that's kind of the first tip that I have for you, which is the protective style that you do. So even with that though, let me just add things like having wigs, weaves, things like that. Those are still protective styles. You still low manipulation styles, because you're not in your hair a lot. You're not yeah, you're not in your hair a lot. People tend to shy away from those things because they're like, oh, for a protective style it has to be braids, it has to be twists, it has to be, but it doesn't. The point of a protective style is to protect your hair, and to ensure that you're not always in your hair and always pulling and all of that stuff. Just kind of to let your hair to allow you to leave your hair alone so that it can do what it does best, grow. And yeah, so yeah, you can, weaves and wigs are still protective styles. It's just when you wear when you wear weaves and you wear wigs, when you are pulling it out out and putting it back on, the friction can also cause breakage. It can cause you know, especially around your edges, it can cause thinning of edges. So you need to be careful with those things. I don't personally wear weaves and wigs, so I can't really advise you on how to ensure that you're not causing so much friction as opposed to where you're losing your hair. I just know that the friction, because I have friends that have, you know, who wear those things. So yeah, be careful with when you're wearing that, especially when you are gluing it on your hair. Some people aren't careful when it comes to removing it. They just kind of rip it. So, you know, I think even that kind of goes with any kind of protective styling that you do. Be careful when you're taking it down, as opposed to also obviously when you're installing it, so that you are not causing more harm than good. Because you want your hair is fragile, so you want to be able to see that that growth that that new growth that you are seeing. You want to be able to see it in the length as well. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that when you're taking down, your taking down process is slow. It's you know, at a steady pace, so that you know you're doing it right, and that you are not tugging and pulling and combing in a harsh way, and things like that, just so that you're not causing too much stress and friction and all of that malarkey on your hair. That's the first tip. So the second one, I think I started doing this a little bit more further down my hair journey, because I've been natural for about 8 years now. So what it is the rice water. And I know for those of you who have tried rice water, you're like, oh my days, that thing smells, that thing is disgusting, why would you be putting that, etc, etc. I don't know, in the natural hair community we tend to put a lot of weird things in our hair. It just seems to be what we do. So but when I was doing the rice water, I wasn't doing it the way that I was supposed to be doing it. I was putting it on my hair every day, not moisturizing my hair either. So yes, my hair, I was seeing that growth and I was like, yes, but my hair was shedding just as much as it was growing. So there were times when my hair was growing more than it was shedding, so I would see that length. But then other times it would, or more so of the times, it would either shed more than it's growing or shed at the same time as it's growing. So I wasn't always seeing that length or growth through my length. So now I have a video coming out soon about how I use rice water now. So just, unless I've already put it out there, then I'll put it in the description box or in the card. But yes, I definitely have a video of how I do it now, because now the way that I do it now ensures that my hair is still moisturized, and you know, I can still see the results that I'm looking for, and also reduce the amount of shedding that I gain or that I experience when it comes to taking care of my hair, washing my hair, detangling my hair and retwisting my hair, things like that. So yes, that's the rice water. I think the other thing is, because there was a time when I was really struggling with my edges. It was thinning, but not so much that it was also noticeable. There was times it was more noticeable than others, especially when, because I used to do, and I still do, but obviously because I do mini twists nowadays, I don't do that anymore. But I used to do a lot of high puffs, pineapple, whatever you guys want to call it. And yes, so obviously a lot of tension, and the string tie thing that I used to use wasn't exactly satin or silk. So that also was causing friction to my hair. I wasn't always lubricating my hair to ensure that, you know, it slid on nicely. So that also was causing a lot of friction and damage to my edges and the perimeter of my hair, to the point where the perimeter of my head, it doesn't always grow to the speed or to the rate as the rest of my hair does, especially the crown of my hair, because I feel like the crown of my hair is possibly the longest part of my hair. When I measure my hair, I found out that the crown of my hair is where it is the longest. So yeah, nowadays, back to, let me just bring it back. Nowadays what I do is, because obviously I'm wearing a bandana right now, Nowadays I ensure that this is not too tight around the perimeter of my hair, so that I'm not causing friction, or so much friction, should I say, that it's affecting my edges really well. Because I really like, when I used to tie these things, I used to tie it so tightly because I didn't want them to move. I didn't want to have to readjust them throughout the day. I wanted it the way that I put it in the morning was the way I wanted it to be when I had finished with everything that I had to do for that day. So I would make sure it's tight and secure and wouldn't move. Because when I smile, when I laugh, it kind of, my ears will kind of be pushing it up and up, and I'll be like, oh my days. So yeah, I didn't want to keep like readjusting and trying to push it down, and yeah, basically. So I used to make it really tight to the point where I was getting headaches. If you're doing something on your hair and you're getting headaches, it usually means that you're doing something to the point where you're causing stress to your scalp, to your hair, and you're affecting its hair growth. Though granted, there are stimulating oils, like essential oils like peppermint and stuff and things like that, and other oils, and the way you massage your hair and things like that, that cause that kind of throbbing as well. But if you think about it, if you kind of weigh the way your head throbs, well, for me anyway, I don't know about you guys, but the way my head throbs when I'm putting on a tight style, or tie my bandana too tightly, compared to the way it throbs when it is growing, when I can feel that hair growth. I don't know if you guys feel that, because I definitely do feel my hair when it's growing. So yeah, so the throbbing aren't always the same. They're not, I don't know, the throbbing for when it's like stimulated and it's growing is not as intense and as like interrupting as if it was, because I've done a tight hairstyle, or tied my bandana too tightly. So yes, that's definitely another thing. If you're wearing scarves that kind of cause friction, that can definitely affect the way that your hair grows. So I've kind of learned to not tie it so tightly, because I love bandanas. I will continue to wear bandanas, and it's still going to have friction unless you put, because even with the satin scarves, I still find that, because I used to do that very tightly as well, I still found that it was affecting my edges as well. It was one of the reasons why the perimeter of my hair was always itchy. So once I started to loosen that, and make it not as tight, then the itchiness kind of subsided. So yes, I'm still going to continue to wear it. I just won't wear it as loose, as tightly, sorry, as I used to. So I think one advice I can give is to have, because this is cotton, it's not scarf. I mean, it's not satin, it's not silk. So it is going to, as the friction is going to be more than if I was to wear a satin scarf or a silk scarf, and it's going to absorb the oils out of my hair as well, so which is going to in turn cause more friction because my hair isn't lubricated, etc., etc. So what I would advise is, if you can find a thin, or you can make it thin by using, if you can find a scarf, a silk or satin scarf that you can put underneath things like this to kind of minimize the friction, then by all means go ahead and do so. Otherwise, just kind of experiment with these things and to see what works, and what works for your look, for your lifestyle, for the way that you just kind of do things on a day-to-day basis.